are going around in circles.
Okay. Let's just keep it simple.
As far as I'm concerned, it is simple. Do you want to live in a world where, there's semen just flowing through the streets?
Oh, please.
Okay, the facts. Let's just look at the facts. Not only did Freddie masturbate 51 times, but he ripped the chists out of his arms.
And went on the run.
Yeah, this is a precedent-setting case. No one's ever done this before.
Exactly right. So it's extremely important that we send the message that we're not going to turn a blind eye to this egregious behavior. All the time he wasted in just 16 years. How can a guy contribute anything to society when he's going to make this
All
the
right.
center of his life?
You don't seem to understand the male body. It's really not that time-consuming a process.
I don't need to understand the male body. I already know what's right.
Okay, the last man to go past 50 non-procreative ejaculative events was castrated.
And that guy was 74 years old, though.
Well, 51 and done.
Freddie's only 16. If they castrate, that's something he has to live with for the rest of his life.
It's not like they're going to cut his penis off.
But it's the end of pleasure.
The end of what?
Pleasure. What about women masturbating?
That's irrelevant here.
No. What about it?
You're allowed.
All right. Well, we don't waste our eggs when we do it.
Right, but don't you think it's wrong, though? Well, to tell men what they should do with their bodies?
Its sperm deserves to become a life. Each sperm is a component of a possible life, and masturbation makes that possible life disposable. That is how God ordained it. We are just enforcing God's plan.
What about separation of church and state?
What about it?
Well, it's supposed to exist, at the very least. I mean, shouldn't it be at play here in the jury room?
Well, there is a church and there is a state. I just happen to believe that they're both telling us the same thing.
What if it's not solely his fault? Maybe it's his parents, it's society.
Lots of men live in this society and they don't masturbate over 50 times.
What about you, Brett?
What about me?
Well, do you remember being 16? Was it hard then?
Yeah. Literally, all the time.
All right, what number are you at?
That's private, don't you think?
Well, maybe it'll shed some light. What are you, mid-30s?
Yeah,
You look good.
thank you.
They say refraining gives men great complexions.
Actually, I'm at 49 events. I've been at 49 events and holding for some time now.
Okay. So this 16-year-old, he gets to 50 events. He decides he doesn't want to abide by the law, and he masturbates one more time. He gets him to 51, and instead of waiting for the authorities,
He takes the law into his own hands.
He takes to desecrating his own body and flees in what he now claims is an act of bodily autonomy.
Yeah. See, banning masturbation at 50 events only forces men into dangerous situations. He could have bled to death, ripping those chists out of his arms.
Then we send him to the penile colony and recommend a long sentence. I mean, like the longest penile sentence ever.
Penile colony re-education without castration in a case like this, does it send the right message to deter future ejaculative offenders?
No, is that even the right question? Because really, in the end, isn't it my body? I mean, his body? When you drill down, why does this law even exist?
Men can only waste 15 billion sperm in a lifetime, and that equals out to be about 50 non-procreative ejaculative events. You know this. Sperm's about creating life. Any waste must be carefully controlled.
True. And considering that 200 to 300 million sperm live in one ejaculation, 50 is actually quite generous.
Our laws are generous.
But why? Why? Isn't this about more than these outdated biological rules. I mean, isn't this really about control over men's bodies? I think we need to address the false beliefs, like masturbation wastes energy, makes men less productive. And like what you said before, refraining helps give men great complexions. I mean, it's all really nonsense.
That's not what this case is about. Let's be clear. We are not here to debate the country's laws. They are not on trial here. We are debating whether this young man should be castrated or sent to a penile colony, or as far as I'm concerned, both, because he broke the law.
Right. And once he is released, if ever, he will live in shame for the rest of his life. He will need to register with the Department of Sex. And we know that men who are registered have a much harder time finding life partners. I mean, can you imagine if he is registered and castrated? He will spend the rest of his life alone. I know a study that just came out that showed that men who are registered commit more crime. Look, we could be really bold and recommend a lenient sentence, have some compassion, and perhaps even set a path for decriminalization.
Look, I didn't tell Freddie to rip out his chists. He can just pull himself up by his bootstraps and get on with it. Maybe he'll learn to have more respect for life.
I understand both of your perspectives, but I believe that this issue is complex and it requires a nuanced approach. I respect the sanctity of life. I also recognize the importance of men's rights. We should focus on comprehensive sex education and support systems for horny men to reduce the need for masturbation while respecting individual choice.
Right. How does this affect this case?
See, look, the more we talk, I believe this case could set a precedent that men have the right to make decisions about their own bodies. Access to safe and legal masturbation is crucial for men's rights and bodily autonomy.
I believe that the components of life just deserve protection. Masturbation is the destruction of potential life, and it should be prohibited, except in cases where the man's life is in danger.
When is a man's life in danger from masturbation prohibition?
Exactly, never.
Right. And here we are back at square one.
Well, if you simply understood that this case is about a violation of the law, plain and simple, and that there's a reason for laws, ample evidence that he broke the laws, and that there's a reason for just punishments, then maybe we wouldn't all be wasting all of our time on your stupid progressive agenda.
And if you had a bit more of a heart and understood men's bodies, maybe we wouldn't have been here for 9 hours.
Just because you don't like the way the world works doesn't mean you can change it.
Enough! We need to decide. We have three options: penile colony, castration, penile colony plus castration. Plain and simple. We need to vote again.
I'll message the clerk that we're a hung jury.
We're well hung.